Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Time Movie Reviews. We don't really have a home for these yet, but I figured we had JP on for the Oscars. Might as well keep talking flicks and see where it goes. So if you enjoy this, let us know. Like the video. But today we are talking about Mickey 17, Bong Joon Ho's new film that has seemingly taken forever to get here, and it's finally here. We both have seen it. So this will be filled with spoilers. I don't want to do the whole non-spoiler half, then spoilers. That's too much for my brain to comprehend. We're going to get straight into it. JP, opening thoughts. How are we feeling about this movie?
So I saw it. You saw it later. I saw it like opening weekend.
Mhm.
It's already kind of slipping in terms of what I remember and what I don't. It doesn't have as much sticking power as I was hoping for. Yeah.
I I agree, and I saw it maybe 14 hours ago, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Um, and we'll kind of go almost like character by character, talk about the film as a whole. Where do you stand on Bong Joon Ho overall? Are you this is a top three director ever? Where do you like stand with him overall?
I can't actually say I'm a fan because I've only seen now three movies from him. I've seen Snowpiercer, Parasite, and now this. I haven't seen Okja. I haven't seen any of his other Korean movies like Memories of Murder and Host and Mother. So I really don't have like a basis to say where this ranks in his filmography. I am pretty sure it's probably going to be lower. And I know critics divide his filmography in his Korean like bracket and his English bracket because there's now three movies he's directed in English, and people kind of say they're different than his Korean ones. But I
Mhm.
think Parasite is like a perfect movie. It is
Yeah.
kind of jaw dropping how good that movie is. And I think Snowpiercer is also fantastic. I think he is probably one of the boldest and kind of like maybe not technically savvy, but he's like one of the deeper thinkers out of the filmmakers right now. He is very impressive.
I would 100% agree. And also, those are the three movies of his that I have seen as well. So we are
Yeah.
working on the same playing field here.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and I think Parasite for me was a movie that kind of changed the way I look at movies. It was like a very like quintessential movie for me because I was just like I wasn't like the biggest movie guy, and I saw Parasite. I watched it with my college roommate sophomore year. I think it was just before the Oscars, right before he won,
Okay.
and it was just eye-opening to me. And like you said, it's a almost a perfect movie, and it really made me appreciate movies for me. Like it was a game changer for me. So that is why my expectations for this were so high. And I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people too, we're
Yeah.
going into this movie riding off the coattails of Parasite still, even though that was 5 years ago now. And so expectations, I think, do play a role in this movie. And you're comparing, again, the Korean movie versus an English language movie. So
Hmm.
it's a little different there. For me, this movie felt like he was trying to make a blockbuster, but he, like, in his way. And I don't think it works that way. Like, it felt like this reads like a blockbuster. It plays out like a blockbuster that you would just see $100 million movie, which I think it was,
Hmm.
and just a normal typical cookie cutter box office hit or sorry blockbuster. But then also Bong Joon Ho wants to put his flair on it, and I don't think those two work together. And that's I don't think anything really stuck with me with this movie, unfortunately. Besides Robert Pattinson, who we can talk about,
Yeah.
who I think is incredible, but I just there's not a lot of staying power with this movie, in my opinion.
I agree. There are two sides of this movie that are in conflict with each other. And on the one hand, you have like a pretty deep sci-fi story that it's adapting Mickey 7 and like the ethics of cloning and can a soul have multiple bodies, and what do corporations do when they have this technology, and what do individuals do when they have this technology. That's like one part of the movie, and then the other part is uh, Mark Ruffalo playing Trump, and I'm going to say it right off the bat: this movie would feel, and I think even perform, very differently if the election went a different way. We're in that weird, awkward zone in entertainment where, like, if you asked me that same question, like, oh, this character's going to play Trump, it's like, can we stop? That was me last year.
Hmm.
Like, The Boys and other, like, shows where it's like, oh, this person's Trump. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Can we move on?
Hmm.
And then we didn't move on. So now it's like, okay, are we going to keep doing these characters? But this version, Mark Ruffalo's version, or at least how Bong Joon Ho kind of makes fun of him, he is like a threat to these people in space because he's in charge of the expedition. So he is dangerous and powerful and threatening, but he is also very stupid. So it
Hmm.
felt like a victory lap that for a victory that didn't happen. It's a weird tonal thing. And same with like the most recent Captain America movie. These movies fully believed the election was going to be different. And so the tone that they approach government officials, it doesn't gel anymore. Even though these movies aged poorly before they even were released. And we're just in
Yeah.
that awkward zone right now.
And
Yeah.
there are some weird parallels that because this,
Yes.
if you look at when this movie was actually shot,
Yeah.
and speaking of shot, there is
Yeah.
a very clear parallel that like that's almost Simpsons level like predictions with
I
how some
think
of that stuff played out.
I think that's one of the few scenes where all of the different parts of the movie come together perfectly. I think there are some fantastic scenes in this movie. It's more the pacing that's the problem. I think most scenes are great, and that scene in particular involving a shooting is like kind of impressive how he handles it in that story world, like fully understanding what he is saying. Um, yeah, I think that is the best scene in the movie. And when it happened, I was like, no way did he do that. That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I do want to preface this for everyone listening. If you aren't aware, I'm approaching this as the dumb moviegoer who I just like movies rock. I love movies. JP
Hmm.
is way more nuanced and knows more about
Yeah.
what he's talking about. So that's the playing field we're attacking this from. What I just want to make that clear so people so basically if I sound dumb, it's because I am. Mark Ruffalo's character overall, I feel like it's been pretty divisive from what I've seen online. Did you like it? Is like I personally, I like when Mark Ruffalo has fun in a character and
Hmm.
like just gets to be goofy, whatever. This for some reason I didn't, and maybe it's like you've said, like I've seen that character before, so it's not as like Poor Things. I enjoyed his performance better than
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
he's doing a similar type of shitty guy, just very out there. But I don't know. I
It's
this
very
didn't work for me.
it's very similar to Poor Things. I will say Poor Things, his character in Poor Things probably has better highlights, but my one complaint of Poor Things, I only have one, is he's not like the main villain. There's like this new guy that comes in at the very end, and he's supposed to be like the next level of that kind of fragile man with power. This movie, he is the main like power figure. So the final showdown is him. In Poor Things, he's kicked out of the movie and he doesn't come back. This
Yeah.
movie, he is there from the beginning to the end. So it's like, yay, I get to see his character's downfall. Um, they're probably I had fun with this version. Um, it was very cartoony in ways that I enjoyed, but he's in a different movie from everyone else. That's like the real thing. He
Yeah.
is he's doing like cartoonish satire to the most extreme because there's some weird stuff happening now and you have to like one up that for it to be cartoonish. And Mark Ruffalo is like leading the charge. He's like, I have to go 150% because right now we're going 100%. So I think he's doing what he wants to do really well. It's just it's in the wrong movie, or the movie he's in has the wrong tone. It doesn't mesh.
Yeah, I think now that we're talking about it, I think I just needed this movie to be darker. I don't
Yes,
know if
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
I don't think the comedy worked for me, and maybe it worked for other people. Great. Like again, if you love
Yeah.
this movie, awesome. And the more, and there are parts I really did like about this movie. I just don't think the comedy worked for me, and like all the way down to the voice of Robert Pattinson. Immediately, that puts you in a certain frame of mind. Like he does
Yeah.
this goofy accent, and you're like, oh, this is this fun, weird thing he's doing, and then the themes you're trying to tackle about duplicating like souls and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they're contradictory, which can work. I just don't think it does here. And I think that, but
Yeah.
one thing about the comedy too, there were some parts that did work for me. His little goon squad, uh, Mark Ruffalo's character, the doctors and all them,
Yeah.
they had some moments that really made me laugh.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
liked them. And then Tony Collette with her sauce, that was funny. That worked for me too. So maybe
That
it
was
did
pretty
work a
good.
little bit, but I just don't think it worked in the full context of the movie.
I think my two big problems are tone and pacing. Pacing is more the beginning. I think is a little slow, and there are characters that we don't need in this movie at all that I'll get to later. The ending is way too long. I think that's the common consensus. I think the movie's a pretty light-hearted, fun joyride, which kind of detracts from what it's trying to say. But then that ending is like a slog to get through. So all the positives you had for the movie disappear right before you leave the theater. So it's like, wow, you really end on like a weak note. But the tone, I agree, needed to be much darker, much bleaker. There's a lot of bleak humor in it. Like all of his deaths, I think are great because like they see him as meat. They don't see him as
Mhm.
an individual. And the extent that they show that, like later in the movie with like the gas chamber, how they're like
Yeah.
doing confetti and stuff while he's still there dying in the background is horrifying. I needed
Yeah.
way more of that. Way
Yeah,
more.
I wanted more deaths. I wanted Mickey 98. Like I want more deaths.
Yeah.
I needed to see more
Yeah.
of that.
I
Um
agree. We needed way more that like
what
churning through the meat machine.
yeah. What else did you enjoy about this movie? Because I think there are very good pieces. I think we both
Hmm.
agree Robert Pattinson is very impressive in this movie. He's
Yeah.
doing something that's very hard to do. And I forget, I was watching someone talk about this movie. But what he's able to do, and this is a credit to the whole team, like makeup, everything. But it's so interesting how I could look at a picture of either Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, and I know who's who just by
Yeah.
looking at them.
Yeah.
And even like facial expressions when they're on camera, usually when you have people who are playing maybe multiple roles, you need a certain like marker. And they do at one
Hmm.
point where they slash his face. You need a certain marker to distinguish the two. You don't
Yeah.
really need that with Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 because he does such a good job of distinguishing those two characters, which is so impressive. And it's like subtle enough where it works, but also my brain just clicks. Oh, that's Mickey 17. That's 18.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson has continued to prove he's a legit actor in terms of like the physical image he can put in front of the camera. Like, I think, like, for some reason, this is a bold take. I think he's the best Batman we have. I'm fully invested in his Batman. It's great.
I don't know
The
if I'm ready to
physic,
go there.
the
Uh,
physicality of it.
I need to rewatch the Batman to be honest, but
Christian
I
Bale.
won't. I'm
Christian
not.
Bale is a better Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson is a better Batman. That's my take.
Wow, you're really throwing Batfleck out of the picture there.
Yeah, I'm completely yes.
Fair
Um,
enough. No.
but yeah, Robert Pattinson can like the way he has posture or the way he contorts his face and laughs and walks and like looks at the other actors on set. Like he has defined this is how 17 sits at a table. This is how 18 gets out of a shower. Like he has that clear like barrier in between them, and he does it very well. And he's very like there's I think in terms of other positives, I think the assassination attempt scene is probably the best scene. The second best scene I think is the dinner when he's having dinner with the
Mhm.
captain and his wife and then one of the other crew members. That whole like, oh, they say he's inviting him over, but they're actually giving him like tainted meat to test out and
Yeah.
stuff. And that's the first time he's about to die, and he's like, "Don't do it!" Like he pushes the gun away. That's a
Mhm.
great scene. I think that is like those are the one and two scenes. Really
Yeah.
well done.
Oh, 100% agree. Also, I think that's where I got the biggest laugh when the doctor's like, they give him the painkiller and
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, the painkiller didn't work. I offer my resignation right away." Like he's immediately like so mad that his painkiller didn't work. Good.
yeah.
That guy made me laugh. Whoever he is, shout at him. Um.
I think if anyone has watched Mindhunter, I think he's like the
Oh,
big serial killer. Oh, I'm blanking on that guy's Ed Kemper. I think he's Ed Kemper.
yeah.
Yeah,
Holy shit, he is.
which I haven't seen him in a long time. I kind of miss him, so I was really glad to see him. He's great.
That's yeah. He was probably the funniest. He was the funniest in my opinion of that movie. What'd you think of? I think her name's Naomi Aki, the love interest character. People are, I think, more positively reviewing her from this film. For me, I didn't love her character. But I don't know why. I can't put my finger
Mhm.
on why. It just didn't click with me. It just felt, I don't know. But I guess eh, Mickey 17 is just a little bit of a weirdo. So is she. So it kind of works. Just two weirdos hanging out. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I heard. What'd you think of her character?
I'm a little indifferent. I think anyone's opinions on her are more connected to the tone because she's
Yeah.
more on at the beginning. She's more of the fun side because they're kind of like a cute little couple that kind of go against the grain of like what the rest of the colony believes in. And then once it gets a little more serious, I actually do think she kind of takes the charge in being the serious character. So she kind of dances the tone, I think, pretty well. But looking back, it doesn't stand out.
Hmm.
I think she has potential. I think she's like on the rise. She's been in some projects that
She
I
was
haven't
in
seen.
Blink twice, and she's good in that.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
didn't watch Blink twice, but
yeah.
I think she has a career in the future. Yeah,
Um, let's talk a little bit about the ending, kind of the final back third. Honestly,
yeah.
um, one plot hole I wanted to point out, and I just like want to talk through a little bit. So they put on for Mickey 17, Mickey 18, they have these suicide vests, the explosive vests that at
Hmm.
any point Mark Ruffalo's character can hit the button, blow them up. They start talking with the creepers, they figure something out to return the baby. Mark Ruffalo's, I keep forgetting, I don't remember his character's name, but he goes out there and wants to have this giant, super important conversation, like with the creepers before they wipe them
Yeah,
all out and make
yeah,
sure they get the right shot. They end up fighting with Mickey 18. And then Mark Ruffalo and Mickey 18 blow up.
yeah.
Am I wrong? I don't understand how electronics or explosive devices work, but if his wristband that has the two triggers for the explosive blow up, shouldn't Mickey 17 blow up too? Am I
I,
crazy? That's all I was thinking about. I was like, if the explosive device blows up, Mickey 17 should blow
you're not crazy because like
up.
that's there's like different kinds of triggers, and I only know this from like media, so could be
Yeah.
wrong. Like apparently landmines in movies, not how those work at all. If you step on them, they
Ah,
explode. There's no like once you step off, so you have to
trigger.
sit there. That's Hollywood bullshit, apparently.
Okay.
But there's like different switches. So there's like a dead man switch where if you hold it and then you let go or it gets exploded or whatever, that triggers it. And then there's other ones where it's like if you hit the button, does it send the signal? So if you destroy it, well, it's not activating the signal. It's just destroying the whole thing.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah,
I couldn't stop thinking about that. It was bothering me a lot.
I I
Um,
legit thought that was going to happen too, but then I was like, nah, I guess not.
yeah, yeah, I get movie magic. Good guy always wins. What you think? We've talked a little about the ending being long and just
Mhm.
extended for a while. Even that final like battle scene with the creepers. What do you think of all that?
Um, I know Bong Joon Ho likes creatures and animals and all that stuff. I would have preferred if like I don't know the fact that they're like intelligent and they're like actually super vital to the plot. I preferred when they were unknown, like in the
Okay.
beginning and the assassination attempt where one just pops up, two of them pop up, and that's a whole thing. The second they find like the matriarch and she can talk like coherent sentences through the translator, that is a prototype. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, we're really rushing through this. And I didn't really feel that there needed to be any sentience on these creatures. Like, are we, like, what is the metaphor? I think the metaphor is like the people in power fear things they don't understand. The other is like, are we doing that? Or are we doing mankind believes they have dominance over nature and they're wrong? So are these things forces of nature or are they sentient things that we have alienated because we don't understand them? It's which metaphor are we going for? At the beginning, it felt like the nature. It ends up being the other. Again, it's like okay, we're adding another thing to this movie that's already really packed in and convoluted. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think it tried to be a lot of things,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of things in a good way. It wasn't anything great. I think overall that's like my takeaway for this movie.
Hmm.
It's good, not great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you make a movie like Parasite as your most recent movie before this, people are expecting great. And I just don't think it stuck the landing in any way that was like relieving for me as an audience member, where I was like, oh,
Hmm.
yes, like that was satisfying. There was nothing too satisfying about the ending. And a little bit of it is like Mickey 18, like sacrificing himself and admitting, like, oh, I'm scared to die and I'm going to do it
Yeah.
anyways to protect whatever's motivations are. But I don't think we dive deep enough into Mickey 18. Mickey 18's
No.
pretty surface level.
Yeah.
He's kind of just a scumbag. And
Yeah.
it just is, which I don't think we had enough character development of him or even Mickey 17. They're pretty one dimensional, I think. And that's the
Yeah.
problem with having multiples, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's also just the matter of like you have like only so much screen time. The fact first off, this movie is like 2 hours and 17 minutes. That's kind of pushing it. That's average now, but for a quick, easy like space adventure, that's pushing it. Like this isn't a space opera or epic like Interstellar. So it's like this should be quick. Um, and it focuses on too many things. The thing with Snowpiercer and Parasite, they focus on one specific thing. The train is class warfare.
Mhm.
The back is poor. The closer you get to the engine, the richer and the more affluent people get. That's the whole movie.
Mhm.
Parasite, if you live up here, you're rich. If you live down here in the basement, where it's raining up here, it's flooding down here. It is very direct. There's
Mhm.
no ambiguity. There's no time wasted. This movie's doing cloning, Trump, animal activism, environmentalism, space exploration. It's doing too much with not enough screen time to explore any of them. I would have loved this movie if they stuck with just the cloning.
Mhm.
You can have Mark Ruffalo be kind of a Trump figure, but the second you bring in the animals, And my big thing, you can cut easily. The Steven Yeun, he's
Oh
like
yeah,
his best friend, that they're both in trouble with loan sharks. That whole plot line, you can cut. You can
yeah,
have Robert Pattinson be scared of loan sharks by himself. And then he runs away. Maybe even have Steven Yeun be the loan shark guy. But this whole, oh, they're buddies, and he kind of pops in and out, cut it out. It's so, it doesn't add to anything. And it's in between him being a nothing character and him being an important character. It's right in the middle. So it's just a waste of time.
yeah. I 100%. I totally forgot about that. Even
Yeah.
storyline. It's so nothing to me. But I think I agree with you. The scale is important for these type of movies. Where Parasite, it's a household.
Hmm.
Snowpiercer, yes, it's kind of a bigger scale, but it's one train. Like you're on a train the whole time. The
Yeah.
scale of this, I think, got too big where there's so many components to tie up or keep involved where it just gets a little messy.
It's
But
not even the scale. It's not even the scale. It's the attempt at the different storylines. The
oh,
scale is like the ship, and I think the scale works. All
okay,
these people know Mickey. They know he's the expendable. So when he screws up or he's like in the hallway, they all know what he is. I think that scale is actually pretty well defined. It's just the number of things they keep stacking in terms of conflicts that it's like, what are we
gotcha.
doing with adding another one? Yeah.
Gotcha. I like that. Where do you stand? I think we've talked about this a little bit on rating movies. Where do you prefer to do it? Do you do a 5-star system? Where do you stand? Because I'm
Yeah.
a 0 to 100 type of guy. I grade it like I'm grading a paper as an English professor. If you're
Mm,
70
okay.
or above, you're passing. So like, basically, it's really hard to fail a movie. I'm an easy grader. So
Yeah.
like if you're below a 70, it's a bad movie. But that's where I stand. Where do you stand?
I'm a big letterbox guy. I'm on
Okay.
letterbox way too much. So I used to do a 10-star system, but letterbox does five, so now I'm just used to that. But in my
Mhm.
head, when I see a letterbox rating, I just double it. So
Okay.
this one, I gave it a pretty generous 7 out of 10. I think there's
Yeah.
some really good scenes that keep it almost relevant, but it does have a lot of problems. That's kind of where it's a generous 7 out of 10.
Gotcha. I'm similar. I'm like mid 70s. I think I settled on in my head like a 76 out of 100.
Hmm.
So it passes. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a good movie. It does a lot of good things. I don't think it does anything great besides some acting performances here and there. But
yeah,
overall, I mean, I think honestly, this was a more critical review than I almost anticipated because I do think I'm glad this movie exists. I'm very
yeah,
happy this
yeah,
movie exists.
yeah.
And it's an original. I know it's an adaptation, but it's something new that we haven't really seen. Not a lot of people are familiar with the source material. So I'm glad this movie exists. I'm glad Bong is getting money to make a lot of movies. I hope he makes a Korean movie next. I really do.
He probably will. Yeah,
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 that'd be great. But yeah, JP, thanks for coming on. Thanks for
yeah.
reviewing this
This is
movie,
fun.
and hopefully more to come. If you like this review, you comment your thoughts on the movie, and we'll talk to you guys next time.